Hi on and all. So in the previous class, theoretically we discussed about exception and we also covered about handling the exceptions. More specifically, we discussed the approach that the RPA developer has to use in order to handle the exception, right? So don't forget, this is the process. So remember these 4 steps that the RPA developer has to use in order to handle the exceptions. So the first step is just they have to use the filter present in the activity panel, and they have to select the activity called try catch and then drop that activity to the designer panel. And then after that, second step is, so inside the try catch block there will be a section called try section, catch section and finally section, right? And we discussed what we need to place in the try block, right? And we discussed what we need to place in the catch block, and we discussed what we need to place in the finally block, right? So this is what we discussed theoretically in the last class, and as I said, in the coming class I will demonstrate demonstrate try catch block with a practical example, right? So, and along with that we discussed one of the common exception that the RPA developer will face while developing the robots, right? This is nothing but unavailability of the UI element. And then we discussed theoretically how this can be handled by the RPA developer using a concept called selector, right? So today's class objective is just I will demonstrate practically those concepts that has been discussed in the last class theoretically, right? So directly I will jump into the tool now. So first we shall understand what happens if the code has an exception, right? Okay, to understand this, as I said, I will go to the activities panel, then I will select an activity called type into. So this is the example theoretically I took in the last class to explain what happens if our code or of our design has an runtime error, right? So now what I will do, I will click, let us choose this as a target application. Now what I will do, I will choose this option called indicate on screen. Then I will select, this is the area that I want to or the robot has to select, and it has to type the message called hello. That's it. So you people are familiar with the type into activity, right? So I won't go in depth about type into activity. So just in the sequence, just inside the sequence we have taken an activity called type into, and the purpose is to type hello message in this application or notepad application. That's it. Clear? And to indicate the successful execution of this activity, just I will drop a message box activity, say, and inside that let us tell done. I mean, we have reached the end of the what I can say the task, right? So that's it. Now I will run the robot. Now the robot has to look for the target application. Here the target application is the notepad. Yeah, it has find the target application. Then it has completed the type into task, and finally it has displaying a message called done in the message box, right? So here in this case, runtime error did not occur, right? Did you observe runtime occurred? Runtime error did not occur here. Why? Because means there was no activity present over here which arised in that situation, which arised the runtime error, right? Now see here. Now I have not launched the target application. So target application is not present here. Now we shall see what happens in this case. Now I am running the robot. I am executing the robot. Now obviously the robot will look for the target application for few seconds, or I can say a few minutes. So now still it is waiting for the target application or searching for the target application. Okay, this is one simple exercise to demonstrate what happens if our code has a runtime error, right? So previously everything was fine. There was a target application, and your code was looking for the target application, and hence that activity was working fine. Now see here, your program your program has been stopped abruptly. See here, now it is not successfully completed this type into activity, and hence it has not reached this activity. So now your program has been abruptly stopped. So can you see here, something exception has been arised here, and you can get the details of exception even here also. So this is one example. This is what happens if you don't handle the exception. So the program will stop abruptly. This is what I explained in the last class. So this is not a good programming practice. So your program, you need to write a program in such a way that even though there is a chances of exception, it should be handled properly, so that the execution of the robot will be completed successfully, right? So see here, now your program, even if I keep this for a longer duration, it won't continue. It has been stopped here. This is what I said. So now I can say the program has been terminated abruptly. Clear? Okay, now I am forcefully, see here, now I am forcefully stopping the debugging operation. Now how to handle this? So just now we saw, see here, so if there is, see here, now there is a target application. Now I am running the same robot. Now I am running the same work, I can say robot. Now it is working fine. Now it did not throw runtime error. Why? Because there was a target application. There was a target application and everything works fine, right? So but if there is no target application found, then obviously your program will not complete its task completely. Instead it will stop its execution abruptly. So that is the problem that will be created if there are runtime errors in the program, or if there are statements in the program which will arise runtime error. Clear? So see here, previously the same code was worked fine successfully because everything goes fine, but now it is facing a problem. It is searching for the target application for finite minutes. After that it will stop its execution abruptly. Clear? So that's why RPA developer, when they are developing the robots, they have to take care of all this. So now as an RPA developer, now we can say that this activity won't create a runtime problem or runtime error, right? So which is the activity that actually is creating a problem at runtime? This one, in this case, right? So now what is the approach that we discussed theoretically to handle this situation? So try catch, right? So you can type try catch. Okay, this is the activity that we need to use. So drop it here, and as I said, theoretically there will be 3 sections called try section, catch section, and finally section. Now which is the activity that we need to try, and that activity has to be placed in the try block. Clear? So this is the activity that we are suspecting, or we are marked that it may throw an runtime error, right? So you need to place that activity in the try block. This is what I was telling theoretically in the last class. So usually the statements or the activity which may throw the runtime error has to be placed in the try block, and there is no rule that you need to place only one activity in the try block. You can place n number of activities in the try block. It depends on the requirement. Clear? And next we shall go to the catch section, and theoretically I said what you need to do. Now just click on add new watch, and there will be a selection box here where the RPA developer has to define the type of the exception. So just choose the base exception. As I said, this is the base class for all the exception classes. Okay, just choose system exception, right? Okay, and you can add an activity here. So usually what we will do in the catch section is we will try to give an hint to the user saying that you are facing this problem, and hence you could take an alternative approach, something like this. So now in this case, now what we can do, we can just drop a message in the when the runtime has occurred to the user saying that target application not found. Okay, so this is the advantage of catch section. So when there is a problem or if the problem arises, what it should do, that has to be specified in the catch section. Clear? Okay, and in the finally section, Okay, just I will come back to finally section later. Okay, now we shall see what happens. So for the time being, ignore the finally section. I have not added any activity in the finally section. So just in the try section, we are trying an activity called type into. Because why we placed this in the try section? Because we found that this activity may throw a runtime error, may or may not, right? So that's why we have placed this activity in the try section, and in the catch section we have added an we are catching an exception of type exception itself. And here what we are trying to do means, if this activity present in the try block is creating a problem at runtime, then tell the user saying that target application not found, and then finally you go ahead with the next step. This is what I'm planning to do, right? So now we shall go to the successful case. I mean, there is a target application here. Okay, now I will run the robot. So what happens in the successful case, we shall see. Now it wrote hello on the target application, and it is saying that it is done. So observe that in this case the statement present in the, or the activity present in the catch block has not been executed. Why? It is very simple, because the activity present in the try block did not give rise to, or did not arise a runtime error, and hence the statement present in the catch blocks did not get executed. Clear? Now with that simple demonstration, did you understand? The statement or the activity present in the catch block will be executed only when the activity present in the try block throws the runtime error. Clear? Okay, now I will demonstrate that too also. Now I will close this target application. Okay, now I will run the robot. Now there is no target application now. So obviously what should happen? Now the activity present in the try block should throw an runtime error, right? Or exception, correct? And that exception has to be catched by catch block, and it has to take the action specified in the catch section. Now we shall see that. Now we shall see that whether it happens or not. So obviously it will wait for a few seconds or minutes. Now what is expecting? It is expecting a message to the user saying that target application not found. Did you observe here? Now from this you can understand that when the activity present in the try block throws the runtime error or exception, then it will execute the statement present in the catch block, right? Correct? So now see here, the activity present in the catch block is executing now. After this, see, abruptly it is not stopping the execution now. Now it has successfully completed the execution. This is what I was telling theoretically. Clear? Now with this example we demonstrated how to successfully handle the exception or runtime error. Clear? And remember, as I said, theoretically in the catch section you can place n number of catches. Can you see here? I can add new catch also. We shall come back to this later. So when you have to deal with multiple catches, and if there is a multiple catches, then in which order the catch block will be chosen, that we will discuss in the coming classes. Clear? Now last there is one more interesting section called finally. Now we shall see what type of activity that usually we will place in the finally block. See, as the name itself says, finally block, I mean the activity present in the final block will be executed whether there may be a runtime error or may not. There may be a runtime error. So that's what says finally. So whether there is a runtime error, no problem, you do this. If there is no runtime error, fine, then do this. That's what finally indicate. So now just to understand that, I will add one more. Okay, I will add activity in the finally block, and just I will type finally or better understand this. So we shall display a message saying that I am in finally block. Clear? Then this is for our convenience to say that we reach the end of the task or a process. Clear? Okay. Now first we shall go to the successful condition. So there is a target application. So since there is a target application, obviously the activity present in the try block will not throw a runtime error. See here, this is interesting. Now the statement or the activity present in the final block has been executed. Clear? So this is one case, and we shall see what happens if it throws a runtime error. Clear? So obviously it will wait for a few minutes or seconds, as I said. Okay, now what it should do? It should execute the activity present in the catch block. Fine. Then after that, finally. Can you see here? Finally. So it is executing the activity present in the finally block also. This is what I said. If you want to take an action when there is an exception or when there is no exception, then those actions or activities has to be placed in the finally block. Clear? So this is about handling the exception, and I demonstrated what happens if the code has a runtime error, right? A simple bottom line is, if you don't handle the exceptions, or in other words, if you don't handle the runtime errors, then your program will stop its execution abruptly, and that is not a good programming practice. To avoid this, there is a construct called try catch, and RPA developer has to use this try catch block in order to handle the exceptions. So this is what we learned in the last class theoretically, and we learn now how to deal with those practically also, right? Now I will explain how to what is the one of the common exception that the RPA developer usually faces when developing the robots, and I will tell you how to deal with that exceptions or a common problem. So the first common exception or the problem that usually the RPA developer will faces is unavailability of UI element, or make it simple, target element. Just now we used Notepad as a target element. See, this is a target application, target element. So, and we also observed what happens if this target element is not present, right? Correct, no? So if it is not present, it will rise to an runtime error. That is the problem, right? So how to deal with this? It is very simple. It is by using a concept called selector. So by using a concept called selector. So now what we shall do, and how to deal with that, by using a wildcard characters, star or question mark. This is what we learned theoretically, right? Now we shall demonstrate that with a practical example. It is very simple. I will go to the same. Okay, type into. Okay, there is a target application. Yeah, fine, done. Okay, now see here. Okay, for better understanding. So this is observe the title. There is no star here, star or question mark here. The title of this window is untitled notepad, right? But if I run this, the title of the target element will be get changed. Can you see here? Star something, correct? Again, if I run this in that state, obviously there will be an exception. Why? Because it will look for the notepad whose title is untitled notepad, but not star untitled notepad, right? So remember, there is a notepad here, but it is looking for icon untitled notepad, but there is there is a notepad application whose title is icon star untitled notepad, right? Correct, no? See here, exception has been arrived, so that it is giving a message to the user saying that target application not found, right? So how to avoid this? This is what called unavailability. Now there is no it can't able to find the target UI element in this case. So this is our target, correct? So how to deal with this? As I said, selector. So right click on 3 horizontal line and choose edit selector, and what did we observe here? The title was not untitled notepad, instead it is something star. So you can either use question mark, okay, question marks replace one or more character, or you can use star for replacing n number of characters. Clear? Okay, now I will execute. So I have used selector concept now to deal with unavailability. See here, no, there is no runtime error. Again, if I run this, it will work. Correct. So see here, so this is what this is the way that usually RPA developer will uses to deal with the common problem called unavailability of UI element. Clear? So the next, I think even I have demonstrated this. how to handle runtime exception in the just now in few minutes back. So once again I will repeat, the author is telling that the RPA developer encounter runtime errors while working with UiPath or while building the robots. So the best practice that is available for the RPA developer to use is to use try catch activity. So and what is the idea? So when there is a runtime error, then give an alternative message or alternative path inside the catch block. This is what I demonstrated few minutes back. Okay, so this is the another common exception that your RPA developer may face while building the robots, and we already have covered this, how to deal with this runtime exception. Okay, and there is one more interesting problem or common exception that the user may face is orbit reference not set to an instance of an object. Okay, I will make it very simple. I will demonstrate this with a simple example, and then we shall conclude this session, and we shall talk about another common exception called index outside or out of range exception in the coming class. So this is also an interesting or a common problem that RPA developer will face while building the robot. I will discuss this with directly jumping into the practical example, right? Okay, so I will delete all this to better understand what is that. Okay, I will use a message box. Okay, we shall have a variable called yes. Okay, I won't give any default value. So I have created a variable called yes, and the scope is sequence. I have not provided any default value. Fine. And in the message box, I want to display the length of. There is a property called length which is predefined. I want to display the length of the string called yes, and that string yes has been created here. Can you see here? Type is string. Now I will execute the program. Okay, see here, there is an exception is arising here. Exception has been arised here, and hence it can't able to complete its task completely. So what is that exception here? So can you see here, object reference not set to an instance of an object. This is what I was telling, that orbit reference or object reference not set to the instance of an object means a variable of an object, or make it simple, an object. So this usually happens when you don't give a default value for the variable that you have created. So that's what the author is telling here. So this is what has actually happened here. Okay, I will forcefully stop the program. Okay, why we are facing this problem? Because just we created a variable and we did not provide any default value here, or we did not assign any value using assign activity here before using the length property, correct? So if I give the default value saying that 1, 2, 3, okay, now we shall see. Whether the exception will be arised or not. No, successfully it has completed the task, right? See here, that's what the author is telling, that see, this is a common problem that the RPA developer will face. Common problem is they will just create a variable without giving any default value, and they will try to use those variables. So that in that case, usage of a variable may throw the runtime errors. So how to avoid this? Only one simple way is just give a default value. Whenever you create a variable, okay, using the variable panel, just give a default value for that variable, so that you will not face any such kind of problem. That's what here the it has been shown here in the image here. Just give the default value in the default section for the variable that you have created in the workspace or in the variable panel. Clear? Okay, so we'll conclude this session by concluding what we discussed. We discussed about exception, and we discussed about an interesting approach or a mechanism that RPA developer has to use to handle the exception with an example, right? And then we discussed one of the common exception or the problem that RPA developer will face while developing the robot is unavailability of the target element, and how to deal with that with the help of selector concept. And then we discussed how to handle the runtime exceptions. And then we discussed this is also one of the common problem, not setting or not providing the value for the variable that you have created properly, and that may arise to a problem called object reference not set. Okay, and how to deal with that problem. This is what we discussed in today's class. In the next class, I will go ahead with another interesting common exception that the user may face while developing the robots, called index out of range exception. So if you have any doubt regarding this, so you can please contact me. So thank you one and all.